Hello Milky fans, it is Milkstool here with you for another Idle Heroes video. How are you? I hope you're supremely well. Today we are here to talk about the core of the Transcendence. Specifically, whether or not it's worth buying this little doodad for 1,500 gems a day from the marketplace, which is the only place you can buy it apart from buying it for actual real money. So this video, caveat up front, it's more for the people that don't spend a lot, basically the non-whales. Because the only time you would actually buy these for money is if you, well, were a whale, because there's so many other things you could buy that are a bit of value. So this video is more for the free-to-play, low-spend spenders. Basically anyone that doesn't spend $2,000 every time a new hero comes out on Idle Heroes. So basically 99.9% of you. So the question that obviously everyone has is, well, look, I've got gems, and I get them pretty slowly over time. So should I just invest in cores of the Transcendence? Should I invest in heroic summon scrolls? Or should I just buy profit orbs? Because that's the choice you're facing off, right? I mean, you could, for example, spend the money on wishing coins as well, but that's a separate video, and that's another layer of complexity that I think most people aren't ready to deal with. Leaving that aside, let's just leave our focus on the three sort of main, you can't call them currencies, but three widgets in the game that allow you to get to the end product, which is either food or copies, right? And traditionally, before the cores came along, the underlying accepted norm was that scrolls you use for copies, and that's undisputedly still true, right? And profit orbs you use for food. But how does cause of transcendence, or just cause for short in this video, how does that change the dynamic between scrolls and profit orbs? And so I've done the math on it, and the reason why it's taken this long and I haven't done it, well, as fast as everyone else, is because the analysis isn't that easy, right? They've made it as hard as possible to compare these different currencies in the game, or not currencies, widgets in the game, because if it was directly, if you could directly compare Compass with Scrolls, and one was obviously just so much better than the other, it would just ruin 1 week's worth of event, and no one would actually ever invest in it and do it, right? So they've created these specific widgets for to get you to spend more, right? And they've made it on purpose. They've made it directly very hard to compare between each other. So then you're just forced to spend on all of them, or like two different, like split your time, say, between cores and scrolls, which I think some people have done based on what I've read on Reddit. And so today, I'm going to present to you my analysis. It is far from perfect, but I think it's the most comprehensive analysis out there compared to what I've seen so far. The other stuff, I think it's fine. It is what it is. So it's a different approach, right? So you need to watch everyone else's approach, and then you've got to look at my approach, and you've got to ask yourself, well, do I believe what Milkstool says? So let's get into the analysis, which is what you're all here for. So I have done a comparison between core scrolls and profit orbs, and I've normalized it. So in some videos I've seen they haven't actually normalized it. They've sort of compared a loop of cores, which is, you would argue one loop is 300 cores because that's how much it takes to get a heart, versus 2,000 scrolls, which is one loop in inverted commas, or actually 4 loops, but it's how much it takes to get one new E5 hero. So a lot of people have compared that, versus, you would argue, one loop for POs, loop in inverted commas, that's comparable to scrolls, and cores in terms of their loop is actually 320 profit orbs. But it actually doesn't matter, because like I said, I've normalized it below. And when I've said I've normalized it, which I don't think a lot of people have done, I've got it down back to a common unit. So like what you get in return per gem invested, and also for every 10,000 gems that you spend on either cores, scrolls, or profit orbs, what do you get in return? So that's how I've normalized it. So then it's a like for like comparison. But before we get into that, we've got to ask ourselves, well, we've got to define a couple of things, and we've got to talk about, give context for how I got some of the numbers, right? So the first thing to note is cores. Obviously, it's 1,500 gems per core, and that's how much is in the marketplace, and that's the only place you can buy it. Scrolls, it's 125 gems a piece, and that's the cheapest you can get it, whether it's in Aspen Dungeon, whether it's from the merchant on Celestial Island, 125 gems a piece. Profit Orbs, it's somewhere between 450 and 500 gems a piece, but let's use the Aspen Dungeons / merchant on Celestial Island price, which is 450 gems per Profit Orb, okay? Not disputable, those are facts, right? Now let's talk about some of the benefits that you get from one loop. So when I talk about key hero here, I mean the hero that you're actually targeting, right? So when you do scrolls, you're obviously targeting the new hero that comes out. When you do cores, you're obviously targeting the hero that you set on the left and the right. So if we go to the core of Compass of the Transcendence, and so if you haven't watched my video, my last video on this, do watch it, where I did 30 summons just to show you what it was like. Because the reality is, you're not going to do 300. 300 is going to take forever to save up. Whereas if you're a free-to-play player, low spender, 30 is quite doable within a couple of months if you invested in every now and then. But I've showed you the odds of getting the hero on the left and right, and that those are the key heroes when I talk about key heroes on the spreadsheet. And statistically speaking, if you look at the summons that GDP and Barry did, and I watched their video, it'll show you, I've collected all the data in terms of which the 10 bomb that they did, and then how many light dark and non-light darks they got from the 10 bomb. Okay? So when they did 300, and it was line ball, when they did 300 summons each, this is what they got. So they both got 16 of the key heroes, right? The split between the light dark versus non-light dark was what separated them, was the difference, right? So GDP, when he did it, he got 6 light dark heroes that he wanted, so like the Russell, and he got 10 non-light darks, whereas Barry got 3 and 13, right? And they both got 283 5-star food, because if you don't get your key hero, you get a 5-star food, basically, right? I didn't count like what I call the lucky draws, where, you know, they might have got a Drake, even though that he didn't mean to summon for the Drake, he just got it because he got lucky. Because you also get that in scrolls as well, right? Sometimes when you let's say this week, Flora, you're summoning for her, but by luck you get a Drake, you get a Tix, and you didn't expect them. That doesn't count. That, because you can't bank on that, right? For every lucky summons that you get of a hero that you didn't expect, I can show you many instances of people just not getting any of that, right? Similarly for Profit Orbs, I don't count the lucky pulls where, you know, some guy orbs into a fortress just for food, and he's not expecting to get like 2 Sherlock copies. That doesn't count. No one does that, right? It's just statistically so hard to do that I just don't count it. So that's cores, right? You're going to get, in one loop, 16 key heroes, 283 food. And the reason why it doesn't add up to 300, for those of you who are very astute and like, well, hang on, so that should be 300. It's because on the 300th summon, the food that you get is replaced by a heart, like a heart of Sia or whatever, which you use to obviously, in the evolution cube, you get one of these hearts, right? This heart here. It replaces the food. So you don't actually get 300 food from 300 core summons in the Compass of the Transcendence area. That's just the first thing to note. So now we move to scrolls. Scrolls, I've assumed that if you do 2,000, you're guaranteed at least 8 copies. Look, statistically speaking, you should get about 9. And I know there are people that will say, well, Melkshul, I only did 1,500 scrolls and I got 9 copies of the hero that I wanted. Not gonna bank on that, right? The only thing that's certain is if you do 2,000 scrolls, you are definitely going to get 8 copies, because every 500 guarantees you 1, on top of doing at the 400 point mark, out of every 500 summons, you're going to get another one. So 2 times 4 times 500 loops is 8 copies of the hero, right? So you can bank on that. You can bank on that. That's the key thing to know about scrolls. Whereas the cores, that's based on 2 data points that I have, and I would argue you cannot bank on the 16, right? Statistically speaking, you cannot bank on the 16. And if you're asking, well, Melkshul, why? I mean, GDP and Barry did it, and to an extent, I also watched June's video. His numbers from doing 500-600 summons, he got about 16 for every 300 as well. statistically speaking, right? So you would argue 16 is pretty bang on, but I encourage you to watch my video on the 30 core summons I do, where that number didn't necessarily hold true for me, right? I got 0. I got a big fat bagel in terms of how many key heroes I got from 40 summons. Statistically, I should have got 1 of those key heroes. I didn't get a single one. So that's the only thing to keep in mind, right? So if you're going to invest in cores, and the numbers I present to you, just keep in mind that averages, right? I'm on the wrong side of that average, or I was on the wrong side of that average when I did the core summons. That's the only thing to keep in mind. This is not guaranteed. 16 from like the data that we have, whereas 8 scrolls, the 8 key heroes that you get from the scrolls, from 2,000 scrolls, that's guaranteed. That's bang on. Like universally, that you cannot get any less than 8. Whereas at the cores, you can absolutely get less than 16 from 300 uses of the cores, summons, the loops that you do. With Prophet Orbs, I've said you get 1 key hero because they've changed the Prophet Orb, the key hero that you get now from doing 80 Prophet Orbs, right? Basically, Prophet Orbs now lag scrolls in terms of the key hero, the special hero that you get. It lags by like a month, 2 months, right? So, and that's just universally, they just seem to have built that into the game. So if you're willing to wait 2 to 3 months for the next key hero, then Prophet Orbs, I've basically said every loop that you do, you're going to get, and one loop being 80, right? You're going to get 1 key hero, right? So here, the example I've used is Rogan. You're going to get him from doing 80 summons. On top of obviously the key heroes that you're aiming for, whether that's in scrolls and Prophet Orbs or in core, you also get food. So I've said 283 per loop in inverted commas for cores, 109, and those are just the numbers. 109. Where is the math? So D2 times X10. So I've basically it's about, the odds are about 3.125% for every 100 here. Here are the odds for getting 5-star heroes when you do the scroll event. It's about, like I said, 3.125, 3.25% for every 100 that you do. And I've also done the odds for getting a 5-star hero for Prophet Orbs. So here, statistically, chance of getting the equivalent 5-star hero and the expected value. And so the only thing to note is that with the 4 and the 5-star shards is it's not a set number of shards that you get. The low number is 10 for 4-star and the high number is 20 for 4 stars. And for 5 stars, the low number is 7 and the high is 18. So I've taken the average of those two values, right? And so when you do 1 scroll and 1 Prophet Orbs, here is the expected number of 5-star heroes you're expected to get. So unsurprisingly, Prophet Orbs, you get like 3 to 4 times more 5-star food than you do for each scroll. And that, by and large, squares with everyone's universal understanding of Prophet Orb for food, scrolls for copies of hero, right? So that's where the numbers come from when I calculate the food value, right? Scrolls, for every 2,000 summons that you do, you're going to get about 109 food. And I'm going to say about. It's not a hard fact like it is with the 8 or the 283 cores, right? Prophet Orbs, you're going to get about 18 food from every 80 orbs that you do, or 18.35 if you want to be anal about it. So that's the key stuff you get from doing each loop in terms of key hero and the food. And that's really, look, at the end of the day, really, that's what this game is about. It's about getting heroes and getting the food to build up those heroes, those key heroes. And you can use any one of these 3 widgets to attain that specific outcome. But on top of doing all that stuff, I know all of you are like, well, hang on, you've missed all this other stuff that you get. Fine. So I've calculated the value and what you get with the other stuff. So with the summons that you do with the cores, you get about 2.4 million of this purple space crystals, or what I call the purple cots. And that has no value right now. I can't put a diamond value on it or a gem value on it because you can't buy it for gems right now directly, right? So that's one thing to keep in mind. For every 2,000 summons that you do, you get a refund of 120 scrolls. You get 60 Prophet Orbs, which in turn, both these things give you even more food. Then you get a couple of food copy heroes. So here, where you see at the 200 point or the 200 summon mark, you're going to get a copy of a hero that's a food tier hero. You're going to get some regression replacement stones, and you can't buy these. This is the only place you can get replacement and regression stones. So what's the value? Don't know, because you can't buy it for gems. This is the only place that you can theoretically actually ever get replacement and regression stones. You're going to get 60 feathers, and there's a value for that. You're going to get 60 of those for doing 2,000 summons. And then you're going to get 25 palace crystals, which are those things that you can use to swap out heroes that, for example, this week the key hero is Flora. If I don't like her, I can swap her out at the next event, which I fully intend to do. And so what's the value of that? Hard to say, right? Because it's the only place that you can get it. Again, with Prophet Orbs, you get 5.25 heroes for every 80 Prophet Orbs that you do. 5.25, how do you get that? Well, if you look at this table below, you get stuff at the 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and then 80 level mark in terms of like shards. So 5.25, and the math, if you want to follow it, is basically here on this table. After you do 10, you get 2 4-star shards. After you do 20, you get 1 5-star hero. 30, 40, 50, 60 gives you 1 5-star hero. I haven't separated the value of light and dark food versus non-light dark food. I've just assumed it's all the same. So you're going to get 5.25 food from doing 80 Prophet Orbs on top of what you get from the orb itself, right? So that's additional 5.25, and then you're going to get 15 feathers from every 80 orbs that you do. So then if we calculate the first order benefit, so all the stuff that you get from doing a loop, I've calculated the gem value of all that stuff. So I've said the key hero is about 3,625 gems, and it actually doesn't matter what the value of the key hero is in terms of gem value, so long as you've given the same value across cores, scrolls, and Prophet Orbs, right? And so if you're wondering how I got to the value of that key hero, I haven't differentiated between light dark and non-light dark. I've just said, look, key hero is a key hero, whether it's light dark or non-light dark. And the value is the average of basically we're doing a current campaign week where you can get a pay to win artifact, an elite light dark hero, elite non-light dark hero, and then a whole bunch of other stuff. I've basically converted the campaign currency there on a basis of 1 to 1.25. So one campaign currency is equal to 1.25 gems, because during the week you can get a heroic scroll for 100 of the campaign currency, and we know that the heroic scrolls are worth 125 gems. So that's that 1 to 1.25 conversion factor. So managed to convert the value of a key light dark hero and a key non-light dark hero, and the average is 3,625, which is the number. It doesn't matter what the number is, literally speaking, right? It only matters that you've used the same number across these things, so then you can compare like for like, right? Because you could be like, well, Milkstool, you can't really do that because Prophet Orbs, you can never get a light dark hero. I mean, that's true, but then scrolls, I would argue, why would anyone ever use them outside of getting a light dark hero? So the anniversary, Christmas, or Chinese New Year, because theoretically speaking, gem value wise, that's worth more than a non-light dark hero. So why would you ever summon for a non-light dark hero, right? Because the reality is there are some very good non-light dark heroes that I would argue are just worth as many gems as a light dark hero. Like, say, for example, Tara, who's fucking completely still useless. She was not worth light dark status, right, in terms of gem value. So leaving that aside. Anyway, food tier hero, I've said it's worth 400 gems a piece. And where we get that is from the event raid. I haven't used the seal land value because not everyone's at the same seal land. So event raid every day, you can buy at the highest, on the hero challenge at the highest level, right? You can buy one additional smash for 50 gems a piece, and you only need 8 of these 34-star shards to create one hero. So 8 times 50 is 400. That's how we get that value. I know I go over this a lot, but that's just so people who are new to this video and new to Idle Heroes know where the values come from. The purple space crystals, the COTS, I've said it's worth nothing. So when I talk about COTS, I'm basically talking about this, because you can't buy it anywhere for gems, all right? So how do you value that? So I've just said 0. It's a bonus that you have to factor in somewhere. Similar with regression stones, I've set the value of that as 0 because you can't buy for gems anywhere, right? And same with palace crystals. I've attributed 0 gem value to it. It's just something that we have to keep in mind when we compare these three things, these widgets, and you see the number below at the bottom. Scrolls, I've said it's worth 125 gems a piece because we've said that's what it's worth up here. Profit orbs 450, food 400, and then feathers. Again, if you go to the campaign currency conversion table, the average feather value is about 52 gems per feather, right? So then when you multiply this unit, this first order benefit by its equivalent gem value, what do you get, right? So per loop, you get 171,200 gems. Here's the final results in terms of here's what you get from doing one loop in inverted commas. Here's the cost of doing that loop. And then here is the normalized equivalency value, right? So it's basically said, this is telling you what you get in return for each gem that you invest. So here it looks like scrolls at first blush are the best things to invest in because, well, for every 100 gems I put into a scroll, I get basically half of it back. But if I invest that same 100 into a profit orb or a core, I'm only getting about 40% of that back, or 0.38 gems back, right? So surely, Milkstool, the numbers that you've shown me suggest that I should only ever dump my hard-earned gems into scrolls. No. And the smart ones would have clued on already. What I've done is I've converted everything to the equivalent sort of food value. So the scrolls and profit orbs that I bring over at these values, that can't happen. That absolutely cannot happen. You have to convert the scrolls and the profit orbs that you get into the food, the equivalent amount of food that you get, because you brought these over already. You converted them already to food. So you can't then go back and say, oh, well, this additional stuff that you get, I'm not going to bring it over unconverted into food. Hopefully that makes sense, right? So I've done that. I've said, okay, from the additional 125 scrolls that you get, the 120 scrolls that you get back and the 60 profit orbs that you get from doing 2,000 scrolls, I've converted that into the equivalent number of food that you get, food from scrolls, food from profit orbs, left aside the key hero number because this isn't enough to get one key hero, right? So I've just said, how much food do you get from doing that when you, how much food do you get? I brought it from this first order benefit that you get, right? And then the gem value of that food. And so I've redone the numbers on the basis of converting everything back into food, right? Because you can't bring hard things. For scrolls, I can't bring the profit orbs and the scrolls over unconverted. So what does that say? What does that do to the numbers? Well, obviously, when you then bring over profit orbs and scrolls converted, the scroll value changes in terms of the benefit that you get, from 119,000 to about 87,000, right? And so then in terms of the returns per gem spent, you're going to get the numbers, the data is now saying profit orbs and cores are the best in terms of an investment, and the scrolls, it's not, 0.35 versus 0.38, you would argue, how big is that? It's about 10% difference, right? 10% is big enough that it matters. So then the data is basically saying, well, Milkstool, based on that, I should invest in scrolls. It's not that easy, right? If it was that clear cut, if I could tell you definitively, guys, just invest in cores, or guys, just do scrolls, I would tell you. But it's not that easy. There's another layer of complexity we have to add on top of this return number that you see, right? You can't just look at it in terms of what return do you get from investing the gems, because you might not be after certain things, right? So that's the return in terms of what you get if you invest in core, scrolls, or profit orbs. They're all basically the same. Where this analysis really gets to the next level is, okay, tell me what I get for 10,000 gems. Let's say I dump 10,000 gems into cores. Let's say I dump 10,000 gems in scrolls, or let's say I dump 10,000 gems in profit orbs. What am I getting? How many key copies do I get, and how much food do I get? Because that's really what people are interested in, right? So for every 10,000 gems that you dump into either core, scrolls, or PO, here's what the numbers say. you get 0.36 of a key copy for cores, 0.36 of a key copy for scrolls, and 0.28 of a key copy for profit orbs. And that pretty much lines up with conventional thinking, right? Scrolls, in terms of the key copy hero that you're after, it's always going to do better than profit orbs. But surprisingly, cores is obviously also going to give you that, right? Food, surprisingly, if you're going for food, it's a better bet to invest in cores than it is to invest in profit orbs, because you're going to get one more food for every 10,000 gems compared with profit orbs and scrolls. We just know you don't do scrolls for food, all right? So now the caveat with these numbers is, obviously, this 0.36 should be a smidge higher. It should be a touch better than the cores, because the 120 and the 60 profit orbs that I've converted directly to food, and I didn't bother converting that to key heroes, because there is a small impact on the key hero number with these scrolls and profit orbs that you get from 2,000 scrolls. That's not factored into this 0.36 number. So I would argue scrolls slightly edges out cores in terms of the key copy number, or the key hero that you're after number. It says 0.36 for every 10,000, but the reality is I think this is just a touch higher. The other thing you also have to keep in mind is, if you watch my video on the core of the Transcendence, the core of the Transcendence summons, the 16 per every 300 that you do, I don't know what that's like if you don't do 300 in one shot, right? So in that video, you saw me do 40. I didn't get a single key hero copy, right? So then you got to ask yourself, well, how believable is that 16, right? So if you saved up 30, 40 cores and you're expecting to get a key hero, because mathematically, Milkster, you said you get 0.36 for every 10,000 gems, right? So I should get at least 1 to 2 from the 40 cores that I do when I summon. No, like that video, I got a bagel, a 0. Whereas it's an absolute certainty, if you do 500 scrolls, you will get 2 copies of that hero, that key hero, during that week, right? So that's the only key thing to remember, right? The other key things to note is that I don't factor in what I call things to note: jackpot draws, so unexpected summoning of recent heroes. So like I mentioned this earlier in the video, if, for example, this week key hero is Flora, and I got a ticks from doing the summonings, that doesn't count. Same with the cores. Like if you selected 2 heroes that you want, but you get another hero that you didn't expect to get, but you still got, and it's a nice copy to have because you're trying to build that hero as well. That doesn't count, right? So that's the only other thing to keep in mind. We couldn't factor that in. Plus the things that I didn't value, like the purple cots, the space crystals, the aggression stones, and the palace crystals, I didn't factor those in, right, to these numbers. So that's the only thing to keep in mind. So where does that leave us, right? You're probably like, okay, Milkstool, what's the recommendation? If you are after a very specific hero, or you're going after copies of a very specific must-have hero, scrolls is still the best way to get it, right? Despite what these numbers say, scrolls is the only guaranteed way to get the new Light Dark hero when the new Light Dark hero gets released. Or if it's a new non-Light Dark hero, scrolls is the only guaranteed way to get that hero. You cannot rely on cores, right? And you absolutely cannot rely on profit orbs. So that's the first thing I will say. The second takeaway, the second so what is, it looks like cores is better for food than it is for profit orbs. So for me, I'm probably going to start, if I ever had the chance to buy a core rather than profit orb for gems, I would absolutely go for the core before I go for the profit orbs, because this is what the numbers are saying right now, right? The only thing that makes me a bit shaky, because it's only one hero, right? Difference for every 10,000 gems spent. The only thing that sort of makes me doubt these numbers, right? So this number here doesn't factor in, for example, the feathers, the impact of feathers, because here what I've basically done is we've only looked at the direct heroes, key hero, the food that you get from doing the scrolls, prophet orbs, or cores, it doesn't take into account the value of feathers, right? So then I would argue, well, the impact of the feathers is understated in these numbers because they're not in these numbers. The optionality associated with feathers in getting any hero that you want or in getting an artifact is not counted. So that's the only that's the other thing I would mention. But statistically speaking, right, it looks like cores are better for food, and it's liable in terms of copies. So I would argue you get cores over prophet orbs for food, especially given that prophet orbs these days, if you're still buying them for gems, just don't. The reason why I say you shouldn't do that is because they give away prophet orbs in so many different places now, like especially with Crystal Crown League and Trial of the Champions, and even free team up arena. You're getting orbs. Well, no, you're not getting orbs directly, but you're getting the glory coins, which obviously let you buy prophet orbs, right? So that's the first thing I'll say. And the other place that you're going to get orbs is with the monthly events, right? So I think orbs, in a way, cores have devalued orbs to an extent, simply because it's just so easy to get orbs, and also it seems to be better value, especially if you're after food directly. So that's my key takeaway. So to summarize key takeaway, I would still get scrolls. I would still get scrolls, obtain scrolls for key copies, and then I would still, well, not still, but I would switch to buying cores for food, especially if you're buying using gems to buy prophet orbs. I might consider using gems to buy cores now, because I think they're broadly equivalent, cores and prophet orbs. But keep in mind, copies are not guaranteed for either. So final thing, prophet orbs, apart from not factoring the impact of the feathers, I've also haven't factored in the impact of the branches. So when you factor in those two things, the feathers and the branches, it might be liable in terms of where you get your key copy of a hero that you're after from, right? These might all end up being 0.36. Scrolls arguably is a bit higher. But definitely, it's definite that you don't do scrolls for food. That's the only definite thing. So yeah, it's really up to you. At the end of the day, whether you choose to invest, the trade-off is between cores and prophet orbs. The trade-off isn't between scrolls and cores. I think is the overall key thing to take away. I know that was a long video. It probably wasn't the clearest video. I encourage you to go over the spreadsheet if you can in some detail. But that's my ending thought. I'm still probably going to only ever invest in scrolls, because I think scrolls are expensive already, right? To buy scrolls and cores together, wow, that's super expensive. So I'm personally still going to ever only buy scrolls. Prophet orbs, I'm only going to ever get from the events, and cores, it's left after the 40 summons I did, and the fact that I didn't get any key heroes. That's left a really bitter taste in my mouth about how much cores are actually really worth. I recognize it's a really quick way to get the purple space crystals, but I'm not like dying in a ditch to get a sword flash seer. So I'm just not. I must be the only person that's not particularly attracted by cores at this point in time, simply because of my experience and just knowing that how expensive it is and what you get versus scrolls and the certainty of getting copies and where I'm at in the game. Yeah. If you're an early gameplay in tossing up between prophet orbs and cores, I would argue, and especially if you don't spend, there's not enough of a difference to make a difference. There's not enough of a difference, let me say that again, between prophet orbs and cores to make a difference in your game, right? This one copy difference for every 10,000 gems, that over the long term will make no difference to your gameplay at all. So I would argue it's whether you want or not, you want to go for cores or prophet orbs, completely up to you. It's just personal preference. I personally would go for prophet orbs, basically, simply because of the optionality that you get with feathers and the certainty as well that you get with feathers versus cores. So that's the only thing to keep in mind. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that video. Like I said, not particularly straightforward, and if you're still confused, you have every right to be, because it's very hard to compare these things like for like. But I've tried my best, so be interested to know if there's any way to refine it. I might do a refined part 2 video if someone comes up with something brilliant, but apart from that, yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks, guys.